Now we have the last speaker for the day, the women power, highly enthusiastic, highly energetic, none other than Linda Geetz. Welcome, Linda, to Blockhash Live 2021. We are extremely delighted and thrilled to have you as one of our distinguished guests at the 4th edition of Blockhash Live Summit. It's a great honor to have the women power in our midst. To brief on our speaker, Linda is a Vice President of the Board of Directors at Blockchain Chamber of Commerce. She's also one of the leading globally recognized emerging thought leader, educator, international keynote and ethical investor who has been engaged with blockchain technology since 2012. She's also the co-founder and executive vice president of DFM Data Corp, member of the board of advisors of Coin Intelligence, and advisory board member of Women in Blockchain Talks. Linda Geetz will be keynoting on the future of blockchain as a thing in the Omniverse. Once again, a warm welcome, Linda. It's a pleasure to have you at the Blockhash Live today.
Thank you. I appreciate it tremendously. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here. And I'm going to do my best to pull up the deck that I want to share with you all today, and look forward to having an opportunity to really expand awareness, and hopefully that is something that we can do together. And it's been a journey for me so far. So I am just pleased to talk about the future of blockchains simply as things. And as you're sitting here today going, okay, why should I care about this? What's in it for me? Hopefully I can show you how this is a potential path to income by using what many of us already know to be true about blockchain. If we learn to address blockchain differently, it's going to put us all in good stead going forward. So LinkedIn shows that there's just been a massive upsurge in the need for blockchain. I hesitate to use the word experts, but people who can engage with blockchain knowledgeably. And it's going to be a component part of skill sets required going forward. So this is something that I believe when we have 81 of the Fortune 100 companies already using blockchain, it's going to be very evident going forward that this is something that anybody that has an interest and a skill set that they can apply in this arena will see financial benefit from it. So we've got this comparison as blockchain has grown and evolved always to the internet. And why is that, right? Well, the internet took out the information middleman. And, just like librarians, they used to need to be there to kind of point you in the right direction, the whole Dewey Decimal System, finding the books. And now that's a simple search online. We've had blockchain take out the transactional middleman. So we don't have to have a bank. We can do peer-to-peer transactions, and that's so important. And the future is the universal framework of things, taking out the digital middleman. And what the web did was put us in a space where we did not own our digital footprint, where we had intermediaries that were there to allow us to provision ourselves into their digital space with a username and password. And then they owned our digital footprint. They owned our data in the digital world. And the universal framework of things is going to enable us to take back that digital ownership and to have digital agency for truly the very first time. So this is the why for where we are. And I never want to assume that everyone listening has a firm grasp of what blockchain is, but knowing, Blockhash Live, the audience that's here, the majority of you, this is going to be, old hat, oversimplification. And so I'm just going to zip through, not lingering on any of this, particularly because I want to get to the real story of the thing language and the universal framework of things. So obviously, a simple explanation, blockchain is a distributed database, and it can be distributed in multiple ways. And, we have private permission, federated, there's all sorts of different styles that blockchain can come in, and there is no the blockchain. Just want to be really clear about that. Blockchain is a technology, and there are multiple blockchains. So if you hear someone talking about the blockchain, ask them which blockchain are you referring to, and you can get some real clarity in that way. So just a database. We have key differences between typical databases and blockchain. It's just how the data is structured and distributed. And, we have this immutability that is capable because of the majority of blockchain infrastructures that make it in my opinion, a better way to store data for some purposes. So this is, conceptually where we're going with Web 3.0. It's just a different formatting for the data being held, and you can search it. Block explorers are used for multiple blockchains, and you can go and find your data just like you do a Google search for data that's online. You can search data. Most times you're just going to find a hash of data. You're not going to be able to actually extract the base data, but you can verify things in that way. So very simple vocabulary for anybody who's stretching a little bit with understanding blockchain. Just a digital ledger, very straightforward. Blocks are linked to a previous block, and you can learn all about Merkle trees. And, I'm not going to dive into any of those terms, but, just keeping this very straightforward data, it is considered the new oil. So if it is, who is owning the data in the digital world? And, why should we care, right? We have a lot of, to take the analogy forward, obviously into oil, velocity and volume are really important, right? But does that equal veracity and value? Not always. We have that garbage in, garbage out issue, and who is extracting value from that data? Is the biggest question, in my opinion. So making sure that the refining is done in a way that the humans that are providing the data can actually extract value from it is really important. And when we look at security of data, that confidentiality, who really holds that data, who owns it, who can decide how it's made accessible? It's these questions are very important. And there's some organizations, I know IBM representatives were speaking today, and they have fantastic free resources that you can access. If you haven't looked at their skillsbuild.org platform, definitely check it out. I always like to point people in the direction of more education, and when it's open source, free, available to engage in, I always want to make sure people are aware of it. So definitely check out this resource if you haven't already, and continue your learning in the field of blockchain. So the Omniverse. This is the interesting terminology question marks that we've been having, all these conversations about the metaverse, and who owns the metaverse. And we had Facebook come out as Meta, and just trying to level set. What do these things mean? Looking at Omniverse, I was a little bit surprised to see that it was in the top 5% of words for lookup popularity. So I'm not the only one that's been exploring these words and trying to understand how they fit into our current paradigm and our evolving paradigm. So just thinking about a spatio-temporally 4-dimensional universe, can be a little bit of a brain stretch. What does that mean? That time space continuum and our place in it, right? And the physical world and the digital world, and how do they relate and connect? And how can I have control or agency in my world, in my universe? And so we we look at metaverses and how they're being defined and implemented currently, and it's very focused on the virtual reality space, right? The interaction with these environments that are created and these avatars of people in the digital world. But are they really representative of a real human being? You know, there's so many question marks around what's happening in the metaverse. So how do we take ownership? And so this is something that I just think is so important to wrap our minds around, because there are organizations that own different implementations of the metaverse, right? And just like the blockchain does not exist, there are multiple blockchains. We have multiple instances of metaverse applications where entities are representing in the digital world a space where we can engage and collaborate and sometimes earn. There's lots of opportunities in different metaverses, but the question is, are we represented effectively? Do we have ownership of our digital footprint? And I believe we can only have that if we look at it from an Omniverse perspective, and perspective is key. And I highlighted key and I highlighted IP. And I'm going to tell you a quick story of one of my most fun lunches ever. I had a wonderful opportunity to connect with Charlie Northrup. He's a member of the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce and was coming down to speak and do a presentation at our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. And this was just prior to all of the lockdowns happening globally, right? So Charlie came down, invited me to join him for lunch with the gentleman who had actually helped broker the sale of his first patent stack. And, I found out from him kind of, in conversation that one of his buddies had been at the University of Illinois, and Charlie had seen one of the first instances of the web when it was just between professors, sharing research. And Charlie saw that and he said, that's going to be commercialized. And his buddy laughed at him, be like, whatever, this is just how we share research. Charlie went home and he wrote 10 patents that defined e-commerce as we know it today in many aspects. He saw that commercialization of the web and scoped it out. And so the gentleman that I was having lunch with him with, we're sitting there and they say, hey, Charlie, did we tell you about the email that we have framed on our office wall? And, Charlie and I are looking at each other like, who frames an email, right? And they said, well, it was the response that the winning bidder got when he asked how much higher he could bid. They had this whole bidding war going on for this, 10 patent stack. So when he asked how much higher he could bid, the response that he got just simply said, whatever it takes. And it was signed Bill Gates. So Charlie's hearing this for the first time because the money behind the deal was all obfuscated. And, there were these timeframes of, who could know what. And he just kind of digested it for a second. And then he said, you know what? My current patent stack will dwarf that one. And I just kind of went, wow, that's a big statement. That's a bold statement. And then I thought, that's the statement of the man who saw the internet before it was what we know it to be and recognized how it would and could be commercialized. And he's spent the last dozen plus years understanding the frameworks that are necessary for us as humans to have digital agency. And that's what his current patent stack, his IP, represents, is our gateway into the digital world in a way that can be managed on our behalf by digital agents. And he's created a robotic consciousness that can learn nouns, verbs, and modifiers. And I actually have some stuff really like hot off the press that he sent me last night that I added into my presentation here. And I'm going to actually read some of it just directly from what he sent me. Obviously, this is draft. This is in progress. The definitions are being defined more fully, but there are over 600,000 lines of code, and there's physical aspects to it as well. And what I have right here is a physical gateway into the MultiKey infrastructure. It's a multi-dimensional hologram that's a QR code that it's just pure random data drawn from nature. And that data is the base to the MultiKey infrastructure that can manage my digital footprint on my behalf. And so the MultiKey infrastructure, okay, what is it? Let me read to you how Charlie has defined it. It is the MultiKey infrastructure is a named digital ecosystem enabling the trusted exchange of data, information, and value between autonomous participants. Each digital ecosystem has a set of independent participants, resources available through a software-defined network, and a governance protocol defining its operational rules and common services. The ecosystem is enabled by a ledger of the things in the domain of discourse and their corresponding cryptographically linked resource records. This enables every person, place, and thing in the digital ecosystem to be represented by digital twins, which can be put in motion. The infrastructure is identified, modeled, and automated using the MultiKey Thing ontology. And Charlie and I have been talking about this digital twin aspect. I know that's probably a term everybody's familiar with, but I have twins. I have a boy-girl twin pair, and they don't represent each other. They're very, very different human beings. And so when I think of digital twins, I don't feel like it really defines what this is. It is digital agency, right? It's an agent that can act on my behalf in the digital world. It isn't me, but it can represent me in that digital space. So this is why when draft is on there, this is a work in progress, and the definitions and the structure, it's all going to continue to evolve. But this thing, this very base thing, when it's defined, Charlie has said it's the most generic type of thing, and it represents something a machine can do, perform as an action, thing that it can act upon or otherwise use. So the name of the MultiKey Thing may be classified as a verb, a noun, or modifier. Although the name and value may be empty, the thing resource identifier identifying the thing is used to map the identity key of the content in which this thing is contemplated to an identity key. For example, the sixth MultiKey Thing in a free list identifies which MultiKey Thing is the subject in the domain of discourse. And when you think about initiating definitions within a space, an ontology that hasn't been defined really. This is the beginning of the definition of a new thing, a new way of looking at the world. And there's verbs that have been defined, and I have just popped up some of the sample ones to give you an idea of what these digital agents can do. And those of you who are engaged with smart contracts, as you look at this, I'm sure your minds are running. How can these words be used? These are machine readable words and human readable words, right? And we have, many of you are very familiar with JSON. And if you can, code, engage, understand JSON, you can write in the thing language. You can engage in this creative opportunity to impact the way we do business, the way things are managed. And when we think about blockchain as a thing, it's something that, and now that I say thing, I feel like I use it too much in my speaking, but it is something that is uniquely different in every instance. You have the Bitcoin blockchain, you have the Ethereum blockchain, you have different layers. Think about Polygon. We have rules that apply to various blockchains differently. And imagine that there is a digital agent that can act upon a specific blockchain based on its rules, based on the terms and conditions and the way that it functions, and then move to a different blockchain to transact business, to do something that the different blockchain is better suited for, right? You have some blockchains that are giving you throughput that is much greater than you would get on another blockchain. You have some blockchains that their security is the key component. So if I need my agent to act on my behalf in the most secure instance possible, there would be a different choice made as to which blockchain they might interact with. And this is I'm going to read you something from an email. And this is an email that I was copied on that was also sent to the IEEE P2874 Spatial Web Working Group lead. So this is Charlie's words. And I just want to use them to give you some scope and awareness of how this can be implemented. So Charlie says, our work focuses on using a multidimensional graph of things representing the things a machine can do, use, and or act upon. By treating the graph as a thing, it becomes self-referential, which allows the machine to perform actions in the graph that act upon the graph itself. It allows an action to manipulate things independent of what they represent and deferring resolution to the last possible moment in certain cases. More importantly, it allows a thing to be an issued, verifiable credential. This allows my agent to create a node for Linda. Like he referenced me in the email, I guess, and then issue a credential authorizing Linda's agent to manage the node. Linda's agent self-assembled a minimal vocabulary of things, nouns, verbs, and modifiers, and then uses that vocabulary to form sentences. The sentences are combined to describe a task. The agent then uses the perform verb action to perform the task, and this puts the graph in motion. So once again, those of you who do smart contract writing, this is a slightly different approach that can have the same outcome when the agent acts on your behalf using these nouns, verbs, and modifiers to do things in the digital world. A business process flow could be automated by this agent's action. So to continue what Charlie wrote, he said, in this respect, the entirety of what the agent can do, act upon, and use is completely managed inside the graph. These can be deterministic and non-deterministic agents, in that one agent can have a limited, well-defined graph, while another agent can keep expanding its graph, including its verbs. When we model verb actions like ponder, contemplate, and hypothesize that act upon the graph, such as its runtime task, that is when you get some really interesting results. Similarly, models of goals and states of being can lead to internal conflicts, as one goal may be opposite of another goal, i.e. be highly interactive versus pretty, for instance. I don't know if we can mute the audience. That would be helpful. To wrap up the email that Charlie sent, he said, by treating communications, protocols, languages, and grammars as things, we have found we can integrate pretty much any standard to bring the agents in compliance. For example, we are now working on models of what is a blockchain and how can the agent use it. This enables us to disintermediate the particulars so that agents can learn how to switch from one blockchain to another. To the agents, even the web is just a thing. This allows us to integrate any protocol and even interact with machines that have no connection-based protocol communications. So I'm going to read that again. This allows us to integrate any protocol and even interact with machines that have no connection-based protocol communications. For example, a Raspberry Pi Zero with an infrared transmitter or a processor with only a camera, a microphone, and a speaker could thus engage. We developed this as the universal framework of things, and our first reference implementation is referred to as a graph of things. The reference implementation has over 600,000 lines of code currently. This is not hypothetical. This is not, it would be cool if we could. This is a new ontology. This is a way of addressing the digital world in a way that allows us as human beings to have agency and to allow AI to act on our behalf on something as simple as a Raspberry Pi. This is going to be globally accessible. This is going to be a way of addressing business process flow that hasn't been possible previously. We have tremendous opportunity. And when I put this new term in front of you, TAPS, think back what we were talking about, the web. We have apps, right? You can download apps super conveniently now. And we've had dApps or decentralized applications. And those have had their purpose and implementation. Well, TAPS are thing applications. And this is how anybody can engage in this uniquely different way of engaging in the digital world. You can build your own taps. You can train your digital agent to act on your behalf and expand its vocabulary with a thing application. So you might start with something really simple where, your agent gathers your financial data for you as it happens. As you make transactions, it aggregates them into categories. Very simple action that it can do on your behalf. But who's going to write the tap that when I tell my agent, pay my taxes, can aggregate and apply all of the new tax code in whatever country I'm in and whatever jurisdictions I've done business and submit and execute on my behalf? That kind of tap will be written. And it's just a question of who's going to write it, who's going to monetize this opportunity to own and name and engage with the things in the digital worlds that are being created and conceptualized as we speak. It's a wonderful time to be alive, to be creative, to be engaged with blockchain, and to understand how things are going to continue to evolve and change our lives. And we have autonomy. We have the opportunity to be the creatives, the creators in this new universe, this Omniverse. So I would love to connect with any of you online. I'm on LinkedIn, and I want to be sure to give thanks to Tracy Levine and Charlie Northrup. This presentation and the content I shared could only have existed because of their engagement and the work that they've achieved and done. So it's just my honor and pleasure to be able to share and communicate it with you today. And thank you for your time. I'm really looking forward to seeing the taps that are going to be built and meet the lovely people that are going to be part of this evolution of the Omniverse and our digital agency. So thank you. And I know it's the end of a very long day where there has been a tremendous amount of information shared and digested. And so it's the beginning of my day. The sun is just up. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Imagining something virtual tool to do your all tasks speechless. Okay. Yeah, pretty much. That I'm going to steal that. A virtual tool to do all your tasks. That's pretty much what can be built with this robotic consciousness that can act on our behalf in the digital world. Just the tasks that we shouldn't have to waste our time on, right? I don't know who else gets stressed out around tax time, but it's really challenging to make sure that you're not missing anything, and to have that just be managed on my behalf is something that I look forward to very much. And so, yes, I hope I've inspired somebody to start down that trail to start building that tap.
That is like great, very good to hear from you. We are like really blessed to have you today at Blockhash Live 2020. That was really an inspiring session. Okay, so once again, on behalf of Kerala Blockchain Academy and Kerala University of Digital Sciences, Innovation and Technology, I extend a very heartfelt thank you for being with us today at the 4th edition of Blockhash Live.